They're just desperately clawing for something to hold on to because the impeachment investigation was such a flop and such a bust. They're trying to change the topic now, but they can't help but shoot themselves in the foot.
Folks, I'm pretty sure you know this already, but the Republican Party is owned 100% by Donald Trump. They can pretend otherwise. You need to support MAGA, which means you need to support criminality, treason, everything they stand for: greed, cruelty, stupidity, ignorance. And so Jim Jordan fits in perfectly, right? Those charges at Ohio State seems to have no guilt for the fact that he knew what was going on. A wrestler has come out and said, numerous wrestlers, but one came out and actually testified in the front of the Ohio State legislature about how Jim called his brother crying, begging him not to share information he had. Why don't we watch just a few seconds of that?
Jim Jordan called me crying. Crying, groveling on the 4th of July, begging me to go against my brother, begging me, crying for a half hour. That's the kind of cover-ups that's going on there.
That's right, Jim Jordan's an evil, awful human being. So he was that before he ever got to Congress. But in Congress, he really found his purpose. First, as John Boehner, another Ohio Republican, referred to him as a legislative terrorist. As Boehner, when he was head of the House, Jim just wanted to blow up, right? And thankfully back then, there weren't as many Jim Jordans, but now they've like asexually reproduced. Jim Jordan, when subpoenas were issued for the January 6th committee, you may remember Liz Cheney, when Jim Jordan grabbed her by the arm to try to lead her theoretically to safety, he yelled at him, "F you, this is all your fault." Because people like Jim Jordan are the ones who riled up their crazy people with conspiracies and helped January 6th happen. Listen to Dan Goldman point out here, you know, the hypocrisy of Jim Jordan on asking anybody in like this country for a subpoena.
The person trying to bring contempt against Merrick Garland for violating a subpoena, for providing the substance but not necessarily all of the mechanism, is Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan entirely defied a subpoena from the January 6th committee. He didn't just give transcripts and not audio. He gave nothing. And the hypocrisy that these Republicans continue to push forward with, they're just desperately clawing for something to hold on to because the impeachment investigation was such a flop and such a bust. They're trying to change the topic now, but they can't help but shoot themselves in the foot.
And then I would say that Stacey Plaskett perhaps put it best of all. You could almost say she took Jim Jordan to the gravel pit. She brought video from Maria Bartiromo, and I think was a producer of Steve Bannon's show, calling out Jim Jordan, that's right, the far right, for not doing enough. Just creating a weaponization committee isn't enough, right? I mean, just holding hearings for Stalin wasn't enough. He had to go on the purges and march everybody out to the forests and take care of them, right? I mean, what are hearings? In any case, she showed the easy connection between the fact that Donald Trump had his minions on TV attack Jim Jordan for the express purpose of he knew that then Jim Jordan would move forward with whatever Donald Trump wanted him to, which in this case is trying to go after Merrick Garland on contempt, is this bullshit impeachment proceeding. But Jim Jordan was taken to task by Stacey Plaskett, who's terrific. You may remember her first impeachment. I believe it was the first one, maybe the second one, just ripped Republicans apart. So she pointed out what we all know, but it's still great to hear her say it, which is basically that this group of fanatics, she referred to them, Trump fanatics, who were there to do Trump's bidding. And Jim Jordan's one of those fanatics. Watch.
He's like Natalie Winters, a Trump loyalist and an executive producer for Steve Bannon's show, have been mocking Chairman Jordan's leadership of the committee openly. And then Fox's Maria Bartiromo and Steve Bannon himself have gotten into the act. And here they are.
Why aren't you being louder about this? Why aren't I hearing anything from this committee? I had to just ask you about it, okay? just let me be clear. Viewers are sick and tired of hearings. They're sick and tired of letters. They're sick and tired of hearing complaints. They want action.
I'm sure you're a good guy, and I'm sure you're trying to do a lot, but it's not, as Maria Bartiromo says, and man, she lit him up.
We all heard her. It's not enough to set up a committee just called the weaponization of the federal government. That's not doing it. We want action. And that's why we're here today. We're here at the beck and call of Trump fanatics.
Now again, look, Jim Jordan may look like one of the most ill-fitted, dorkiest human beings alive. He's a Ruprecht from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Where's the cork on the fork?
To prevent him hurting himself and others.
You know, he's Beavis from Beavis and Butthead. He has a bowl haircut, refuses to wear a jacket, is like 5'1" when he's wearing Trump's lifts. He's an imp, but he's a dangerous imp, and he has to be dealt with. And having members of Congress like Stacey Plaskett and Dan Goldman call out his bullshit is so important.